And gamers, trainers, Pokémon, welcome to another episode of Pokémon's Health. Pokemon meets men's health. I'm your host, Roy Flash Gordon, here with our guest today, Rushil, aka Conkledonk. Conkledonk, what's going on?
What's up, man? Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it. Really excited to do this.
Hey, thanks so much for being here with us. Reminder for everyone listening, if you are listening on Spotify, make sure you give us a follow. Watching on YouTube, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and share it with somebody who you think might get something out of the message, out of these conversations. And if you're like me, you have trouble focusing, maybe got ADHD, and we are hopping into ADHD 2.0 reading in the Patreon week by week, kind of going over the chapters, what I got from it, and give you opportunities, share what you might get from it as well. So you can see the link for the Patreon in the description. All that said, hopping on in here with Conkledonk. Conkledonk, bro, why don't you tell the folks a little bit about yourself, where you're from, what you do for a living, how old you are, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So like you said, my name's Rushil, and I'm 26, turning 27 in May. I'm from Massachusetts, about an hour and a half out of Boston. So kind of Western Mass, and I am an actuary, which most people don't know what that is, but I'm used to that. But I basically do risk analysis for an insurance company. And yeah, kind of a boring job to most people, but knowing doing math all day kind of helps when you're playing VGC. So it's definitely comes in handy.
Totally. I know we got an actuary around here in the I'm in Chicago. We got an
Okay.
actuary around here that's pretty good. He usually does pretty good at the gets good results, and he's mentioned before doing that sort of work has helped him out in
Yeah,
the game. So that's your experience too, sounds like.
yeah, yeah. Who's the actor that you're from? I'm curious. Is it Blake?
It's Logan Masur.
Okay, yeah, Logan. I
Yeah.
met him too. Yeah, I've talked to him too. Yeah, he's a really good player, and
Yeah.
there's another actually that I'm friends with in the community named Blake Silver, who's also like an awesome player and a really
Yeah.
good friend. So, yeah, we've a couple of us have found each other, which is pretty cool. Yeah, I mean, I it's a job that I enjoy, but it's definitely a job I've had to. Even my fiance right now has trouble explaining it to other people sometimes.
No, I hear you, dude. I hear you. Super dope. Why don't we take it all the way back with Pokemon? So, how did you get started in the game in the first place? Like, all the way back to your first gen, and then just take us through how you got to where you are today, including how you engage with the community today.
Yeah. So I feel like I kind of started playing Pokemon when I was really young, but like I got like gaming consoles like kind of later than everyone else. My parents were always
Mhm.
like, studying first, and then so kind of got stuff later. So I would play like Fire Red on my friend's Game Boy, like when I'd go over his house and stuff. But like I never really got to play fully through. So just kind of like experiencing it a little bit like through him and hanging out. But then finally got my own DS later on, kind of after everyone else, and then um, got Diamond for Pokemon Diamond for my birthday, which was like the first game that I played like 20 times through. Like after I got it, like loved the game a ton, and then really like was into Pokemon like pretty much throughout when I was young until like I'd say maybe middle schoolish is when I started to be like, all right, like other people are growing out of it, so maybe I should too, and I like never stopped liking it, but it was more so like, all right, that's not really what like people are talking about. That's not what like
Totally.
is cool anymore. So kind of went on the back burner for a while, and then like same in high school, like maybe I think I played like through on like a simulator like once or twice. Played through like platinum and diamond and stuff. But like just for fun, like after school. But like again, no one's really talking about it in high school, or at least um I wasn't hearing anyone talk about it or anything like that. So I was like, all right, I guess like I should grow out of it. Like that should kind of be the age. And then got to college, and once you get to college, I feel like you start to realize like, oh, what is cool is not actually cool, and like
Yeah.
just being yourself and enjoying what you enjoy is cool, and surrounding yourself with like-minded people. So like I ended up with like staying like my roommates for like 4 years, like or 3 years. Two of them also loved Mons, and like it's not like we were like competing like a ton. Like I didn't even know about VGC or like even competing at all. Like kind of, it was just, I would always play like story mode, and never really played like multiplayer or anything like that. And then even with those guys, like I would do like Nuzlocke or something like but we wouldn't really like compete or anything like that. I didn't really know about that. And then graduated college the same year that COVID happened. So 2020 like went to shut down and was kind of just home. And like I got a dog, and when I was taking care of the dog and stuff, I was like, all right, let me load up the DS, play some Nuzlocks. And I'd
Yes.
gotten some, like I got 3DS and during college, so I played through some of the old games and whatever. And then I started watching, like finding YouTube, like getting more into it, realizing, oh, man, I really love this. Like this is so fun. Got more into it. Got a Switch during college too, and got Sword and Shield, and started watching. Like I watched Wolf versus Andrew Ding Collinsville regional finals, and was like, this is sick. Not knowing who Wolf was or Andrew was, just kind of like seeing a video, and then saw Wolf's name pop up more and more on YouTube on recommendeds, and saw his like videos, and really got into it and started playing like more online, and realized people are like, I didn't have a Twitter, I didn't, but people, I realized like that's where everyone is, and so got created a Twitter, and like download Discord, and really kind of threw myself into it, and like then started competing in 2020, yeah, 2023, like when Scarlet Violet basically
Nice.
came. That's when I started like actually I was like, I don't think I'm gonna like, I'm not good enough to push for worlds or anything, but I'll just try to do really well in an event and be able to say, like, post on Twitter like, hey, look at me, I had a good tournament. And I like, because before that I'd been doing like online tournaments a lot and like doing well. So I was like, let me see how I can do in a real life tournament. And I was doing well, like well enough, and I was getting points and like at every tournament I was going to. And then ended up getting top 8 at Milwaukee that year, and like surprisingly got a Worlds invite, like kind of got exactly the points I needed. So
Nice.
made to Worlds, and that was like incredible. Like playing Pokemon in Japan was like something that I didn't even know was a dream of mine until it was like, oh, this is right in front of me, and this is like childhood me would be geeking out right now. This is
Mm.
insane. So that was like incredible experience. And then the next year, like 2024, again, like competed, was like, all right, like because I got engaged in 2023, so I was like, all right, now that I'm engaged, like wedding stuff is also gonna come up, and like, I don't know how much I'll compete, but again, ended up like getting like just enough points and like kind of sneaking over the finish line, got to Worlds again, super
Yes.
excited. And like also just kind of really like become obsessed with VGC, and like really love the community, really love like talking, like just posting silly stuff on Twitter, and like just talking to my friends about it. And so like even now this year I'm like taking a break from like competing for worlds and stuff, because now I'm actually like getting married in June.
Yeah.
But still like very much like I'm gonna play the global challenge this weekend, and like I'm gonna like I play online every here and there, and like play ladder, and still really like I have my own podcast about talking about Pokemon all the time, and I still just like love interacting with the community every chance I get, because it's like become like an insane passion of mine. So yeah, that's kind of long-winded story of like how I got into Pokemon, into VGC, and here I am.
Super dope, bro. Yes, tell us about the Chilling Neigh. I really enjoy your podcast as well. And I'd say, I'm trying to think of other podcasts I listen to. It's probably you guys mostly, as I really enjoyed getting spreads from Sableye in the first place on YouTube and stuff. And I've chatted with him. Hopefully, get him on here one day. Tommy has been on. Love that guy. Super funny. How'd you guys get linked up and start the podcast?
Yeah, well, Tommy was actually like, so the first regional I actually went to was in 2022, Secaucus in Jersey, and Tommy was someone I faced. Like we were both, I think we faced at like the 4 and 3 tables, or like the 3 and 3 tables, something where we were, or yeah, I think 3 and 3 tables, and we were both out of it at that point. But we were both just like, it was my first tournament. I think it was his second tournament. But we were both just having fun, and like again, I didn't really know many people at all. And he was incredibly like, I mean, anyone's met Tommy knows how radiant his energy is, how incredibly nice he is. And so like immediately kind of were like, I ended up beating him in that set, but we both were just like talking about it afterwards, having a blast. And he invited me out to dinner afterwards, and so we hung out after, and just ended up keeping in touch, and so became really good friends. And Sableye, I don't even remember how we met, but I remember just I mean like he I can't even remember because like I feel like it's been like we've been
A
friends
long
forever.
time.
But I know it was after Tommy, but like it just feels like I don't know, like I've known those guys forever now. But I think some point in 2023, I was like, I was again, I just made Worlds. This was like summer 2023, just made Worlds and just come off like a really good performance at Milwaukee, and I was like, I would, and I just love talking about Pokemon. I was like, I would love to create content, but I'm not like I wasn't passionate about like just going at like making YouTube videos about like ranked battles because
Yeah,
like you can get a lot of those and you can get a lot of people that are better than me doing it and like I kind of understood that and to me it was just kind of like even the format was like best of three open team sheets so playing like ranked ladder just didn't feel like as fun like and just making YouTube videos of it I don't know I just wasn't like I wanted to just kind of more talk about the game more and so I was
totally.
like and I listen to a lot of sports shows, a lot of sports podcasts, and like I'll go on long drives and or walks and stuff, and like just throw those on. And I was like, this would be like I found myself being like, I would love to just listen to about Pokemon, and I know there's Pokemon podcasts out there, but I was like, I would also love to talk on it, talk about it. So I was like, let me, who do I know, and like who would be fun, and I know Tommy's so fun, such a fun energy, and Sableye's like already in the YouTube space, already in the streaming space, and he's super fun to
Mhm.
talk to, and one of my good friends. So I was like, what do you guys think about doing a podcast? Like, what do you about it? And they all jumped on the idea, so we kind of ran with it, and now we are actually now it's just me and Ryan. Tommy's taking a step back, but because he's thriving in life, not because of anything bad, but more so he's just
Totally.
thriving in life outside of VGC right now, and that's not really his
Good.
focus. But, yeah, just I mean, I love we love talking together all the time, so we're like, why not just record this, make this a pod, right, and see if anyone else wants to hear us yap. So
Oh
that's been
yeah.
really fun time.
Dope, bro. Thanks for sharing all that. Certainly mean it. Like I started playing like competing and stuff 23 also Milwaukee that year. No clue what the hell I was doing. And so of course I look for resources all the time. And once you guys started doing the podcast, it definitely got, your takes, give a brother direction to
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And, I really appreciate them. Two more questions before we go on. How would you say being an actuary helps? Like what about the risk assessment helps you in the game? Just a brief take on that.
Yeah. It's funny because like again, my job is mostly just about like again looking at data, risk analysis, all that. And so like I mean, Pokemon is a game. VGC is a game of risk analysis, I would say, and actuaries tend to be like fairly conservative in that sense of like,
Mm,
all right, not take too much risk, which I feel like is not necessarily how I play VGC actually. I
yeah,
feel like
totally.
for someone who does focus on numbers all the time, like I tend to play VGC based on vibes quite often.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'll live. Why not? And because a lot of times when you're at a regional, like you can't do calcs on the fly, but I will like say that like it definitely does be like being an actuary makes me think about okay, like what is the like looking at the risk analysis from like my perspective, but also like looking at it from my opponent's perspective quite often where I'm like,
Yeah.
all right, like what would be their like safest move? What would be their move that I think they're thinking I'm gonna make, stuff like that, like kind of trying to get into their head a little bit and also looking at it from my perspective and being like, all right, like this is the most likely move I think they're gonna make, this is the most likely move for me to counter that, or this is like the safest play they can make or safest play I can make, etc. And like same with like I'll do calcs too, but I'm not like obsessed over calcs or anything like that. I think like a lot of the time, like you can calc for a lot of stuff, but the spreads that people have, like I think this past weekend we had San Antonio, like Justin Tang won with max defense Ogerpon Hearthflame, which is like something that no one would expect, right? And so you're
Totally.
gonna get caught off guard. So I don't like focus too much on that. I focus more on like, all right, in the situation, like what do they think I'm like? They may think that they're going to KO with this, so I can afford to do this, or I might think that they may think that I'm going to KO with them, so like they're going to make a different move. So just using that assessment more, I feel like is like how I apply actuarial skills kind of loosely into
Yeah.
VGC.
Totally. And it's so super helpful. And I think as a like inexperienced player, I wish someone had even have like said something like that to
Yeah,
me in the first place. It's like not just clicking buttons, not just imposing your will on your opponent. You can't play it like that. And sometimes it'll work out, and you just happen to make the right call. But a
yeah.
lot of other times you gotta be more complex with the thinking. And yeah, man, appreciate sharing on that. Who's your restricted you're running in the GC? May I ask?
Yeah, I'm running Cali Ice. I mean,
Mhm.
like, I mean, Cali Ice is kind of like my favorite restricted, probably, and
Totally.
Kyogre's probably backup. But I was between Kyogre and Cali Ice, and then I had two teams kind of ready. One team, the Kyogre team, didn't feel as strong, and
Yeah.
Cali Ice team, it's gonna be a little volatile, but I figured I was doing pretty well with it on ladder, and I'll just have a fun time. I'm not again this like for the people that are like competing for worlds, this matters a lot more. For me, it's just like, all right, let's see how well I can do and
Oh
have a
yeah.
good time. So
Sweet
we'll have fun
dude.
with it.
Yes, yes. I'm a Cali Ice fan myself, so good stuff, dude.
Yeah, nice.
Shifting gears a little bit, get into manhood a little bit, and just a little bit about your experience. I think I'll ask today, how do you define manhood for yourself?
Yeah, I think that's like a it's a pretty I'd say loaded question.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I think like again, I think everyone kind of has their own definition of it. For me, it was really about like growing up. Um, I looked at like, all right, who are the men in my life, especially like the prominent men in my life, which was like my dad and my uncle, and I was like, those guys are to me like my role models and what it means to be like what it means to be a man, which was like, all right, they're strong, they take care of their family, right? They are like strong-willed, work hard, like to make sure that they're doing well in their careers. They are command like earn the respect of others. Really like being kind, but also being someone that like people can like look up to and be like, all right, this is someone that I can be proud of to be a friend or like the son. I was super proud to be the son of my dad, right? Or my
Yeah.
mom was super proud to be his wife, etc. So like to me, that was like, all right, these are the values, and even stuff that was like less serious, but more so like, all right, they were both funny people. I was like, that's something that everyone it brings everyone joy, brings everyone laughter, right? And that was kind of the things that like to me, that's what it meant to be a man, right? Like those are the people that were the men in my life, and so I was like, all right, like that's what I want to be, and I think I kind of really embodied that growing up. And then, there's also, I think, the stereotypical, like, you kind of can't exist in the world without, I feel like, especially growing up when I did, where it's like, all right, you see the stereotypical, like, all right, here's what, I would say, like, toxic masculinity is, where it's more like, all right, you got to be jacked, you got to be, maybe treating women not so nicely, like can't really be into something that's like quote unquote, childish like Pokemon, or like can be perceived as like maybe something that's feminine, right? Like certain singers that I like, I wouldn't say I wouldn't tell people that I'm like, all right, yeah, I like Ariana Grande music, I like Selena Gomez music, whatever, because like
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be perceived as like, oh, like what,
Yeah.
so it was a lot of like, or even just like not talking about your emotions, right? Like just burying your feelings, and that was something that like I also was struggling with on the side, where it's like I had to kind of grow out of that, and I'm still working on that. But like, it's those are the two kind of I feel like definitions of manhood that were kind of in my life. Whereas one is very much like forced on me by like everyone around, or at least like that was kind of the vibes of like, all right, here's what's in movies, here's what's in TV that I'm consuming, and
Yeah.
that's kind of like what I'm growing up and seeing, that like this is what adults are like, this is what adult men are like, right? Versus like, okay, now there's also the my dad and my uncle, and so it's kind of growing up trying to like fit into both categories in some aspects. And as I matured, obviously I realized that certain aspects of the societal one was you know not what I wanted to be, and
Mm-hmm.
even certain aspects of like how my dad was and how my uncle was, like I was like, all right, I want to be different from them as well in certain ways. So I think that's like my definition of man has kind of changed as I've grown up, and now to me it's more like just being really comfortable in my own skin, and that's okay with me. Like however everyone else wants to be man, or whoever they are, that's totally fine for them. And for me, I'm lucky to find a fiance that like is very much like talk about your emotions. Don't bury them. And like
Mm.
think, and enjoy your passions. Who cares if people think it's like, Pokemon's childish game. And luckily all my friends around me have also supported me. I've surrounded myself
Yeah.
with people that are comfortable in their own skins and are happy with who I am as well. So I think for me now, it's more just, being me. I am now a grown adult. I am a grown man. And to me, manhood is just who I am right now.
Oh yeah, that's beautiful, dude. That's beautiful. I love to hear the awareness around you're looking to your father, your uncle, beautiful, perfect people to be looking towards, of course, as
Yeah.
you're growing up. And then, very aware of what society was trying to push on you and choosing to take what you wanted to take from all those sources and I'm cool with this, I'm not cool with that, stuff I'm
Right.
not cool with over there. And then getting to the point where you're like, I just want to be me. I just want to be in my skin and
Yeah.
be cool here. And that's okay. And what you're doing in your skin is really cool too. Like that respect for other people's decisions on how they want to be, other men's decisions on how they want to be a man. Of course, I'm assuming without harming others, like that stuff, forcing that away and accepting that the good is fantastic. And I think the awareness goes a long way with that. Next question would be like kind of in that same vein, that societal definition. Were there any times in your life where you felt like you weren't living up to like that standard of real man and you kind of felt a way about yourself because of it?
Yeah. I mean, constantly. I think like the like one like for sure was kind of what I was talking about with like not talking about your feelings, right? Just kind of burying it deep. And like that was something that like as I grew up more, it was more like stuff is bothering me, like, and like it was just kind of like I feel like the bill always comes due, right? Like you can just keep
Mm-hmm.
like digging, or you can just keep pushing stuff deep, but either just builds resentment towards yourself, towards other people, whatever it is. And you just have like this unresolved stuff. And like that was something where I'm like, I want to get this out, or I want to express myself. But at the same time, I gotta I like, I'll be really sad in this moment, but you know what, men don't cry, right? Like men don't
Mm.
like show that, like they're weak, right? Like stuff like that. That was like really tough because I'm, definitely I am not, and I'm happy I'm not the very stereotypical societal, a man. And that is like, and even the stuff even smaller stuff, like where it's like, all right, I like these certain singers, I like this movie, I like whatever that's, maybe considered, childish or a little bit feminine or something like that. Like to me, it was something that I kind of had to always hide, where I was like, all right, like I am meeting someone new. I don't want to come across weird. I don't want to come
Yeah.
across like I'm not like, just like a dude, right? Like it is always a bit of a struggle for me. And even into college, right? Like you're just meeting all these people, you don't know what everyone else is gonna think, right? Until like I feel like I was very comfortable with the bonds I've formed with my friends, where I was like, all right, I can start to open up more. Even something like Pokemon that I was not comfortable sharing, even when I was like fully into VGC, like I just was not comfortable sharing that with, because I was like, this is going to be embarrassed. Like people are going to think like, oh, like you're a grown adult. Like you can't be like, that's not manly to like a kid's game, right? Like that's, that's that kind of perception. Even with people that I was like super close with, even like some of my best friends, where I was like, I like now looking back, it was silly, like knowing that like they didn't judge me at all. They were like, "That's super cool. Like, what, you went to world championships in Pokemon, right?" But like looking back, or back in the moment, I was like, they're gonna judge, like they're gonna think, oh, like they're gonna think less of me and like want to distance me from me. And so I think even now, still like working through some of the stuff where it's like I spent my whole life trying to again emulate my dad, my uncle, societal standards and stuff. And now it's a lot of like, all right, peel it back. Not all of that was good stuff, and I
Yeah.
need to pick and choose what is something that I truly believe in versus something I was trying to emulate that I don't actually believe in. Or and it's not easy. It's not easy to like
Yeah.
suddenly like, be like, all right, I'm not talking about my emotions for the first 20 something years of my life, and now in the last few years start to talk about it more, because that's the healthy thing to do. But
Absolutely.
it's definitely not like the easiest, like, all right, let me just become an open book now. Like it's like, all right, I gotta really, like, it takes time and effort to start to be vulnerable like that. And I think that's something that again was told by society, you can't be vulnerable as a man, but
Yeah.
something that like has helped me definitely live a happier life is like, all right, let me be vulnerable with my fiance, let me be vulnerable with my parents or whoever it is, and be like, all right, be open and honest about how I'm feeling, and instead of just having like this built up resentment or whatever, just actually talk through my feelings and now be happier.
Absolutely. I think when we have those hard emotions, we're really going through it or going, whatever stretch season we are in life, and it's kind of, kicking our butts. That is self-destructive to keep it in, and like
Yeah,
it's super strong and super healing to let someone, reach out their hand and help you up. And I keep thinking about how we're supposed to let these childish things go.
yeah,
But I don't think there's anything like more badass than saying, actually, I really love this thing that all these people around me think is childish, and I'm gonna, love it out loud. Like, I think that's super cool. I think that is actual, like, there's something like strong about that in a society where we're kind of told to do something else. So really good on you for doing it. There was a thing on Twitter a couple days ago. A guy was just like, do you put it on your dating profile, or like do you tell women about it or whatever? And
yeah,
I'm like, absolutely, it's on the dating profile. Like I say on first date, let's just get this out of the way. You know
yeah.
exactly who I am, and if you don't like it, peace out, and we go on with our lives, and you find somebody in better alignment. I'm glad to hear that your friends and your fiance all seem to be those kinds of people. And I don't know why you would want any other sort of people in your life,
No, it's not worth like wasting your time on other like people that aren't going to accept you for you, and like you have to kind of mold yourself to be the people they want to hang out with.
Yeah.
It's just way better to be you and like have people that want to hang out with you for you, and not like, oh, 80% of you, but not, like, oh, keep that weird stuff to yourself. Like, no, I am who I am at this point. Like, now I'm very open about it. Like, people I'll meet, like, it comes up in conversation kind of all the time when meeting new people, and be like, oh, like, because it's just a fun fact. Like, be like, oh, you went to Japan to compete, like, play Pokemon in the world champion.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
you were a top 200 or 100 ranked player in the world. Like, that's insane, right? Like, that
Yes.
was it's just like, now it's like a fun fact where it's like, all right, everyone's kind of just trying to. I feel like, especially once you kind of find those people around you that make you feel supported, you kind of are really able to explore yourself. And I think it's just a beautiful thing. And really, not you start to realize the people that really weren't there for you, they were there for their idea of what they wanted you to be, which is
Mm,
is just not worth it.
totally. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Michelle, can I ask? So you mentioned some hard times, some needing to be vulnerable to get past it. Can I ask about if you'd be willing to share any mental health stories that you might have, anything that you've gone through and have overcome, or something maybe going through that you'd be willing to share with us, so people can get an idea of how they might manage.
Yeah. So I like over the course of, I mean, it's it's funny because like I've realized in the last during my Pokemon journey, honestly, in this last like 20 or the VGC journey from like 2020 through now, um, but really in the last couple of years, like I was diagnosed with ADHD and autism, so I realized
Mm,
like I started to realize a lot of stuff where I was like, this is not how other people act, or this is not how other people feel on the day to day. This is not how other people, whatever. And it was like, I always knew that I was like, it's this, weird, different, whatever it is. Like,
mhm.
not to sound like cliche in that sense, but more so like, I always knew there was something off. Like, there was like always like something's not like, I don't know. It's not natural for me to be it was a really difficult for me to like just easily fit into groups of people, to like socialize, like to just fit into kind of like what was normal and stuff like that. And like that was always kind of a constant struggle. But I figured like, all right, like it was just me, and that was
Yeah.
just like, all right, like I just gotta adapt, like I just gotta whatever. And but it also led to like a lot of stress, like a lot of stress and anxiety, and something I still deal with all the time is like I have also, an anxiety disorder. So it's like I just have like a lot of this built up, but it was all made worse because like I never knew. and never knew other resources were out there. Never knew there was other people that were also feeling these things I was feeling. And like now that I've been able to kind of like, all right, now I'm out on my own more, and I've had more time to think about stuff and start to like also have, again, my fiance has been like, all right, that's different, right? Like that's not how, everyone else I know like thinks about things. Like, why do you feel that way? Whatsoever. And we've kind of had a lot of conversations about like, oh, okay, like that makes sense. And they start to realize like, oh, maybe we saw like more and more stuff would come up my feed. We're in the social media age where it's like, all right, like Instagram reels, like, whatever comes up on Twitter, it's like you see like this, this is how autistics are, or this is how ADHD people are. And I'm like, oh, that seems really familiar. Oh, wait, a lot of this seems familiar. And like you start to realize, oh, wait, maybe I should get myself checked out. And it's like, oh, okay, yeah, no, you definitely are, And so it's been something where I've like, because I've realized it, because I've like learned about it, like I'm still learning about things that are like, oh, okay, that's something that is because because I have autism, or that's something because of ADHD, and that's why I feel that way, that's why I act that way, that's why I have that's why I see the world that I do, or that's why I have extreme stress, and like that's why I always had difficulties making friends, right? Like that's how I'm like have extreme hyper obsessions on things, or why I can eat the same meal every day for years at a time, right? Like, like it's and people are like, how do you not get sick of that one song on repeat that's like for genuinely the last 10 years? Like it's like, oh well, this is just normal to me. I didn't realize everyone else didn't want to listen to this a million times. Or like do this every million times. And so there was a lot of things where it's like I would have to hide who I am. I felt like even up until I would say like last like few I would say in the last few years, it's where I've been like starting to like actually grow into that point where I'm like, all right, I'm gonna start unmasking, like start to be really comfortable with who I am. And again, thankfully I've surrounded myself with friends and family, and a great partner that also accept me for who I am, versus like I think early on I was already struggling. Like I was very not popular in high school, and I was and even like basically growing up through high school and even college, I was able to find groups that I would fit in, and like thankfully, but even in those environments sometimes I'd be like, all right, I gotta this is weird, can't act like that, or I have to like start to kind of fit into what they want me to be. And was slowly finding my way. But now that I've kind of realized why I am the way I am, for certain things, it makes it a lot easier for me to be like, all right, you know what? Other people are not going to understand why I feel this way necessarily, but now I can communicate more of like why I feel this way, or why I would like to do something this way, and communicate in a way where it's not I'm like lashing out, or I'm just having to like bury it deep or something like that. It's more so like, okay, I can be more comfortable with who I am. And I think what I would say to anyone who's dealing with any sort of mental health struggle is like, I think it's really, really hard. Like I again went through some pretty like depressing times of like, all right, like I just don't know what's wrong. And like I keep feeling like I'm screwing up. And like even though I think I'm doing like I cannot see the flaw in what I'm doing. I cannot see why people would not feel the same way. I cannot see like it's just so hard for me to put myself in the other person's shoes, because my brain is just wired a different way than the other person. And so it was just like, but what's going on? Like I don't understand why they're not seeing the same like exact same way. And now I'm realizing more, okay, my brain is actually wired differently, and they are not going to see this the same way. But now I can also understand more why they see stuff the way they do, or like now I can explain more where I'm coming from. And so really trying to find the root of like what's going on, and really trying to see, okay, maybe talking it out with a therapist, maybe trying to get some evaluation done, or even if it's not something where you like you feel like you have a mental illness, but more so like, all right, you know what, I'm just going through a really freaking tough time. Like I'm it's just I like doesn't feel like there's much hope. Like I don't know what's going on. Like whatever it is, I think like opening up to people, talking about it, like you're not going to figure it out on your own. It doesn't happen, because you're just you, and you have no frame of reference. You don't have any like someone to bounce ideas off of. And so especially if you're in that negative mind space, all the thoughts in your head are just, why am I like this? Because you suck, right? Like because you're just not like whatever it is. And I feel like talking out with people who love you, care about you, and are there for you, they're going to understand like, okay, you know what? That's not why that we know you don't suck, right? You're an amazing person. It's just okay, now let's try to figure out what is going on, right? Like what is it, work is just the worst possible situation for you. You need to switch careers, or you're just surrounding yourself with the wrong friends. Like these people are bad.
Mhm.
They're saying that maybe they're feeding all this into your negative images of yourself, and like you need to remove yourself from those people, and that can be really really hard. That was something that I had to go through, where it's like, okay, like these are the people that I thought were my friends. I have to find a completely different like friend group, but they're not really your friends, right? Like they're
Yeah.
the wrong people. And so I think for each person, right, the mental health struggle is different, but like trying to really talk about it with someone that you care about and they care about you, and trying to find the root of that issue is like the start the starting point. That's the starting point. And then from there you can really try to figure out, okay, now let me peel away the issue, let me try to figure out how to resolve it, or how to at least cope better, and go from there. But without trying to without talking about it, without finding out what the reason is, you're just gonna get in this constant loop of, what, I can't fix it, I can't fix it, I can't fix it.
Totally.
And it feels like you're going nowhere.
Totally. I think like even just learning what it is, and this ADHD 2.0 book that I'm going through, and I'm just learning like there's these traits, and it's like, oh, it sounds like me, sounds like me, sounds like me, sounds like me. Oh, that's one too. That makes sense. Just there's something just really validating about your experience when you can see yourself in something like that, especially when it feels like you don't know what to do with these things and they are not beneficial things for you, at whatever point in life. To just educate yourself on all that, just extremely validating. And sometimes that validation just does so much for your sense of self on its own. And then you start to peel those things back, and now it's like, okay, now you're making some movement in your life, and things are looking a lot different than what they may have been before you knew what you now know. So yeah, definitely great points there, Rushil.
Yeah, and like more likely than not, there are other people in this world that you don't even know that are going through the same kind of stuff.
Hmm.
Like, and being able to, again, like being able to scroll through my Twitter feed now, or like Instagram reels, whatever, and see like half of them are about like, all right, ADHD, autism stuff, and be like, these are things that like I struggle with too, and here's how I could deal with it. I'm like, this is so helpful. Like, I don't even know these people, but they're dealing with similar things that I am, and they figured out ways to handle it. And now that's really useful advice for me, or even just knowing that there's other people out there handling it, even if they don't know what's going on, like how to handle it either. But just knowing that you're not alone is just really, really helpful. Like, I feel like, again, like you were saying, that sense of validation is huge. I don't know. It was huge for me for sure.
Dope. Down to our last couple questions. First one of those two will be, what is it about Pokemon itself that makes you happy? How's it contributed to your happiness in life?
Wow. I think, to me, like, I am a passionate person, and I'm a bit of an obsessive person, and that that comes back to the autism and the ADHD stuff. But
Yeah.
I like, for me, it's provided me an outlet, um, for that competitiveness that I have. Like, I am an extremely competitive person, and like, growing up, like I loved playing, you know, recreational sports, and I wasn't good enough to be like on school teams and stuff, but like still, I just loved competing in that sense, and or like playing, like, all right, like hang out with friends and be like, all right, like let's run Madden tournaments, let's run whatever tournaments, and winning, and be like, all right, let's get that little rush. And like now it kind of fed into that competitiveness for me. And then in college I joined like a competitive Indian dance team, and like traveled around the country for that, and was like doing well, and was like, all right, this is how I can pour. I was in class, like in lectures, watching videos for that, and like be like, all right, this is like my competitive outlet, this is something I can obsess over. And now it's kind of back to Pokemon, and I think like more, it's given me an outlet for my competitiveness, it's given me outlet for finding new friends, for traveling and seeing the world. But also, like, there's just something about like Pokemon versus a game like chess, or just like other games where it's like, or strategy games where it's like, all right, like the creatures are cute, they're like a lot of fun. And like there's just something, like, I don't know, that just feels like I grew up on the game, so now it's like there's a nostalgia factor of it. There's also like there's this huge community of people that also are just like, you love, Conkeldurr, that's awesome. I love Umbreon, and like let's just talk
Mm.
about Pokemon. Like I love this mon. Like I just tweeted something today about like there's a whole group going around that just loves Bashadon and brought it to tournaments, and like they're just all close friends based off of that. And I think that's awesome. And like
So
for
dope.
me, it's like similar situation where it's like if I can make one of my favorite mons work on a team, it just brings me so much joy, and like just having a lot of fun playing it. And like I think, growing up, I was, you watch Ash Ketchum, on the anime, being like, and he's competing in tournaments, and you're like, this is the dream. Like this is so
Oh yeah.
cool. And I'm literally doing that. I'm going to tournaments. I'm bringing a team of Pokemon, I online, whatever it is, and I'm, talking to other friends about it and being like, okay, is what's your six Pokemon that you're bringing? What's your, like this is, to me, it's a bit of like that inner child in me still being
Oh
like,
yeah.
this is just like I'm living out the anime while also like kind of that competitor in me being like, I get to, have this outlet where I can, win, I can lose, and feel all the feelings of it.
Mm.
I'm a big sports guy too, like love football, love basketball, whatever it is. And so I watch them, and I'm like, I like to compare and be like, all right, how did I do? What would I do? How would I put my performance in like NBA terms? Like, how did I do? Or NFL terms, or how did I do? And all that. And so I don't know. To me, it just is like a kind of all in one encompassing where it's like you get the fun aspect of it, you get that competitive aspect of it. It feels like a sport as well. Like it just all of it kind of wrapped up in one, to the point where now I'm on Showdown basically every day, and I'm playing Pokemon like every
Yeah.
day. One of my groomsmen at my wedding is a friend I met through Pokemon, like through VGC.
Wow.
And it's just, I mean, I live in Massachusetts. He lives in California. Like we're literally all the way across the country from each other, and yet like became some of the best friends. And now he's a groomsman at my wedding. I think that's super super cool. So
Wow.
yeah, it's a lot of it, but all makes me super happy to be a part of this community and just keep playing Pokemon.
Super dope, man. I like obviously Pokemon and random men's mental health conversations are a little different, like don't necessarily inherently go together, but it's like that inner child thing, the men's mental health deals like something I do outside of this, but like being able to, do something that allows me to connect with other guys, hear from other guys, and really do something that we love that I wish I had more time for before starting to do this. Like it's really come together so well. Like Pokemon is just a great connector, and I think it's so dope. You met someone through Pokemon, and now they're in your wedding. Like you guys just weren't like in each other's
Yeah,
world, and now you are because of this game. And it's super dope. So much so that he's standing up with you is really cool, dude. Congrats
yeah.
on all you've gotten from it.
Thanks. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's awesome to have a friendship like that. Yeah, and I think like a lot of people have been able to find friendships like that, which is really really cool.
Yeah. Speaking of last question and just thinking about, guys in your life or any random guy that might be out there, if you knew about someone struggling and you were there to give him some words of encouragement, what might you say?
I'd say that, well, first off, I'm not the best person when it comes to encouraging words, I'd say, or at least comforting. But I would say that it's really boils down to, I think, like talking it out with someone. Talking it out with someone that cares about you, finding the root of what's going on, because it can feel hopeless in that moment. It can feel like there's no fixing what I'm going through. There's no like everything, like there's you could have like a few bad weeks, a few bad months, whatever it is, and just feel like there's no way out of this situation that I'm in. There's no way, there's no one who understands the situation that I'm in. But I promise you, if you talk to someone who loves and cares about you, and there always is someone who loves and cares about you, even if it doesn't feel like that in the moment, promise you there is. And just talking it out, and even talking about with maybe a professional, someone who's trained to talk about stuff like this, like a therapist or whatever it is, and really just talking out all your feelings, having can just be like a burden off of your shoulders. It could just feel like, all right, a whole weight has been lifted off, and B, you can kind of work together with that person to try to figure out, okay, what step can I take? Just finding one thing in your life that like gives you a small piece of joy. Like if you're going through a tough time, just find like one TV show that like, you know what, I kind of like this TV show. Let me look forward to it every single day. I'm gonna watch one episode of this show, and now suddenly, oh hey, you know what, I really love this sandwich shop. I'm gonna get a sandwich from there every week, and I'm gonna look forward to that sandwich every week. And you start to find little things that build joy in your life while you're also figuring out, okay, what are the root of my other issues? And slowly you're starting to fill your day with things that bring you joy, and you've now talked through all your issues, and now you're kind of living a life that you're really enjoying, where it's, you know, I am free of kind of the issues that I thought about before, or at least I'm working on them. And I also have all these things that bring me joy. You know, for us, it's Pokemon, but you know, maybe for someone else, it's a different game, or it's a sport, or it's, you know, dancing, or whatever it is. You just find something that can give you that little bit of joy that you look forward to. And even if it feels like bleak for a whole, you know, a whole month or whatever, but you know what, at the end of that month, or at each week, this one episode comes out and I love it, and that's something I can look forward to. And you just start building it. It's not going to happen all in one day, right? It's not going to happen all in 1 week or a month, but slowly things will start to turn around, for sure.
Beautiful. I'm
Beautiful.
hearing talk to someone, like open up, one of those things that we are told we're not supposed to do. Forget that.
Yep.
It's so important that you do. There is support out there for you, and seek out your joy. And it may be really hard to find in the times where you're just not feeling it, but just that one thing can really sprout and grow into something huge, and lead you down a path to wellness. And we deserve that joy. So guys, go get that for sure. Rushil, Conkledonk, brother, really enjoyed being on here with you. Really enjoyed just getting to chat, getting to meet you. I hear that you probably won't be at events in person for a bit while you prepare for the wedding, but I hope to see you in one down the line, dude. And
Yeah. No,
congrats on what you got going on.
thank you so much. Yeah, appreciate having me on. This was awesome. Super fan of kind of what you're doing here. I think it's really great. And yeah, won't be at any events until after Worlds, but after that, hope to see you, and you know, anyone else that's, you know, looking for a new friend. I would love to kind of meet everyone. So hopefully later in the year.
Hey, sounds good. Best of luck to you, brother. We'll drop a link for the Chilling Neigh podcast in the description as well. So please check out Rushil, Tommy, and Sableye on the Chilling Neigh. And bro, I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thanks.
And if you enjoyed this episode, please make sure you give it a like, subscribe, or share with someone who you think might get something from the podcast, from the message. My goal is to get this in front of every guy who could possibly need it, so they can not only feel better, but do better and be better for the world.